Yes, ladies and gentlemen, court is in session. Please rise for the judge. It's time for a bit of Judgment Day here on the bus for good old Judge Kearney. Obviously, I'm sitting in the hosting seat tonight. Usually it'd be the bold David Logue that'd be sitting across from Marc for these types of shows, but no, I've stepping in tonight to guide him along the way. But Marc, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, mate. Thanks for asking. I'd be lying if I said I was ecstatic about how things are going just now, but I'll try and keep it a wee bit positive and just pretend that I'm doing okay.
No worries. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, same, mate. Just it is what it is, man. We just need to soldier on with it. Obviously, the dust is kind of settling now on what happened at the weekend, and we start looking forward to what's coming up at the weekend. But yes, it is a Wednesday evening tonight, and we're doing a wee rotation policy now on the bus where it'll either be Bustalgia on a Wednesday night or Judgment Day. So tonight it is a Judgment Day episode, as you will all have seen with the comment we put up last night. Get your questions in, and you certainly have. So we'll be getting into them very, very soon. First thing I need to just let everybody know is we are not live right now. This is a recording episode, so there'll probably be a live chat at the side because it'll be a premiere, but we can't bring up the comments. I've only got the questions loaded up for Marc that were submitted. We'll be going through them soon enough. And of course, do all that good stuff as well, folks. You know the drill by now. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification to know when we're going live. And of course, head over to piesports.com and use the code BUS1888 and get yourself a nice tasty 12.5% off your order. So, Marc, as I said there at the top, we've had a lot of comments in the last 24 hours since we put up the post about getting comments in for the judge. And you can probably guess what many of them are about. So what I've done is usually it's like 3 or 4 that Russell or David would usually pick. I've actually got about 7 or 8, but I've grouped a few of them together because there's like very specific topics and just try to get as many people comments involved as possible. Because I said, but there was so many questions saying, I think it was 30 comments the last I checked on it. So it was like, right, I'll take ones that are all of a similar vein and group them all together in terms of what the topic is. And as I say, you can probably guess what they are because, yes, we're still smack bang Marc in the middle of this transfer window as we head now towards next Thursday, I think it is the deadline day. So, yeah. Oh, God. 6-7 days to go then. Oh geez, right.
It just seems to be that it's been 10 days on Twitter for about a week now. Anytime you see there's only 10, I take a look on Twitter, it's there's only 10 days left, and I'm saying you've been saying that for fucking 3 or 4 days now.
I was watching a podcast earlier the day that went out live and they kept saying 10 days, and I'm like, if it was next Thursday, that means
next Thursday, so including today, 7 days.
7 days, 7 and a bit. Jeez. Oh no, the sands of time are ticking away. Oh my God.
My life's ticking away. They're making me get more grey hairs in my...
I'll get plenty of them, mate. I've got plenty, and I'll have plenty more by the time deadline day comes.
Join the club. I'm like Steve Martin by fucking next Friday, I'm telling you.
Those silver fox. Well, let's get battered into it, mate. Let's get battered in. So, I say the first sort of main topic, as I say, you know what it's going to be about, is mainly to do with the transfer window and the board and how they've been acting. So, I've got a few questions and comments about that. So, first of all, Darren came in and said he's got a wee shopping list here. All right, lads, my question is, being honest, are you even surprised with the massive underwhelming window so far? I'm not. We all know that we need a goalkeeper, a left back, an attacking mid, a left wing, and a striker. Another one along a similar vein about the transfer window on the board is, hi again, Judge. What's your opinion on why this utter disgrace of a summer had went over the heads of 90% of our support until we lost to Kelly? That one's from Glasgow CSC. Craig White, CSC, says, do you think it's realistic that we'll pull out the Podence deal? And do you think Hatate might be off? Because obviously we saw news today about contract talks maybe breaking down. So obviously that's something that's looking. And coming in last regarding sort of transfer related and board related stuff, Martin Weir, he wants KT and he wants McTominay because both of them can play centre half. 2 names, they do keep coming up. But yeah, I'd say most of this is all going to be about the board and just the transfer window in general, Marc. So, Judge, the floor is yours, mate.
Well, I've answered this question, and if you want, you can maybe click through the wee questions there as I'm speaking, so I can...
No worries, this is the first one again.
Right, so this one's about... listen, thanks for the question, Darren. Appreciate you doing that, mate. It helps us kind of engage a bit more when we're not live and gets a wee bit of, interaction between yourself and me or however speaking. But anyway, Darren, the positions you've picked out there is the exact positions that I think Celtic need to strengthen in. I do think we need a left wing and a left back. That full side does seem to be neglected for me. And that's no coincidence when you see Carl McGregor struggling, because that's Carl McGregor's side. You know what I mean? He tends to float amongst midfield when he's playing in his A game, but we see quite a lot with Carl McGregor that he does kind of cover for the left back, similar to Scott Brown, and that I can see similarities between him and Scott Brown. I think Brendan Rodgers is trying to turn him into Scott Brown by playing so defensive, so negative, so passive. He's in the picture, but he's not in the picture. Every time you see Celtic play this season, it's not been many games, but we've saw enough, including pre-season. Carl McGregor's of zero impact. In fact, I would probably say he's been a negative impact to the team. Not because I think he's a bad football player, I just don't think he's suited to the role he's playing just now. And you got to feel sorry for the guy because he's so much better than the role he's been given by the manager. And I still don't think we've ever replaced a number 6. I don't think we've had a number 6 for a long time now, and that I think that's quite important. We speak about Europe and how important that is to people and how important that is to the club. Unless you're going to invest, and I'm not talking about James McCarthy or Abelgard or Awata or Kwon or Edeguchi. I'm talking about really invest and go out there and find somebody who's able to play that position, somebody with the ilk to play it, but somebody with the physical strength to do it as well. And that's been neglected for me. The left back and left wing position totally needs covered as well, and that's definitely 2 areas that I think needs covered. Goalkeeper, I think we're batting head against the wall. I think as soon as next Friday comes, Joe Hart's still going to be number 1. I've loved Joe Hart since the day he came into the club, but every player's got a shelf life and a use-by date, and he's certainly passed it. I'm sorry, he's cost us already with stupid mistakes. And we're only in the 3rd game of the season. You get away with it at Ross County, you get away with Aberdeen. A couple of times in pre-season, he might arse himself and arse the defence. Giving away corner kicks within the first 20 seconds, etc. You do that at places like Ibrox and you're asking for trouble. You're asking for an early goal to score against you. And we've not started very well at all. In any of the 9 games we've played this pre-season and this season, we've not started any game strongly. We've been setting out the traps, and we'll be the exact opposite. We'll get our Rangers team, for talk's sake, really hungry to hit us for the first minute at Ibrox. I'll keep on referencing Ibrox because that's the next big game for Celtic, and that's an acid test for the mentality of this Celtic team and where they've actually took on board what the manager's saying. I think there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes going on just now, which we might get to. That's Phil's asking the question, so I'm not sure yet, but I'll have my say on that if it did.
Well, Mark, when you talk about Ibrox and goalkeepers, just think back to the game at the turn of the year, the 2-2 game, where we were 1-0 up from early on, and we were quite comfortable for the first half hour. And then Joe Hart with a terrible pass out of defence, and they hit the post from the shot, didn't they? And they just gave them that lift, that wee bit of momentum, just wee tiny moments like that. I say tiny, obviously it turned into a monumental moment in that game because it does cause a huge momentum shift. But things that you may think may be inconsequential, but it can have a huge bearing. And we've seen already, Mark, in the first few games that Brendan's going to be very reliant on passing the ball back to the goalkeeper in this system. And it's like, well, this goalkeeper clearly is not good with feet. Ange like to do it a lot, but I think Brendan's teams are doing it even more. And it's like, this guy's so bad with his feet, and that's the issue.
It's quite obvious, Phil, and I think the obvious game plan for Celtic, and he's actually spelled it out to us. I think Brendan Rodgers does a lot of mansplaining. If you know what that word mansplaining means, I mean, he's kind of explaining it almost childlike to a female, you know what I mean? But he explains his tactics too much for me, where we all just want to see it in action. We don't need to know all of the players need to make decisions where it's a long ball or a tidy pass. He's bringing teams on as deep into your half as possible. He's letting your centre backs play with the ball, our wingers play with the ball, or wing backs, sorry, and then he's drawing them in, and then he's trying to make passes through the gaps. But we're not getting the gaps. Teams are stupid. This is the 2016. Teams have saw this, Phil. I mean, this was what we were doing in 2016, and we get away with it for a good season when nobody could understand what we were doing, although it was pretty obvious. And to me, it's like, if there's no backward pass, we just hit the ball long, and that will play into Rangers' horns. I mean, a long ball up that park is what Gerrard done for the Celtic. He just put one on each defender, and one sit in the middle or two sit in the middle, closed off all the closed off all the passes, all the spaces. Celtic hit the ball long, right to their midfield, and it was defending and attack again. And that's what they did. And that's like a joy it was out of the COVID season.
They've got a lot of tall players this season, from what I gather from. Yeah,
I mean, what we saw this. I don't want to talk about that more, but they scored 2 really tidy goals yesterday, so it just shows you there's more to them than just big tall players. But they're capable of punishing even teams at that level. But anyway, goalkeeper, if he's still in, I think if he's still in goal Friday morning next week, I think it tells you all you need to know about whether this club want to strengthen and give Brendan Rodgers the tools to march on. And I think I know the answer to that one, Danny. What's next?
He's got attacking mid there. The only one I can think in the squad.
I think we need somebody.
Matt O'Reilly. So who else after him? If O'Reilly's injured, who else?
Well, if you've got Matt O'Reilly and Turnbull and Abada in the team, that's 3 players that I don't think start for Celtic last season. If best players are in form, Phil. Aye. And when you see teams like getting starts and getting a lot of game time and matches, and you look at that and you say, "Oh, that's only because the standard of the first 11 is dropped." You know what I mean? It's like Abada's there because there's no Jota, but even Abada, there's no competition for Abada. You know, there's Telio. I don't know what wing's his favourite wing. I mean, he could be on a wing on a jet plane for all I know, because nobody's seen him apart from that ridiculous birthday post. Celtic have went peak COVID years, just no strengthening, just showing a contempt for the fan base, and also putting birthday messages. It's just, I don't know, the next move will be like Neil Lennon, maybe Dane scouting for the club or something. They'll bring him back into the club. They'll do something just to totally piss the fans off. And the next move's coming, just to really, if I see one more Twitter, YouTube notification cause somebody signed for the Buzz team, I'm going to smash my phone up, mate, to be honest with you. Couldn't give a fuck. Neither could, probably any Celtic fan, to be quite honest with you, apart from the ones kidding on their wanting the Celtic.
I hope it isn't Neil Lennon after I said at the weekend, you know, at half time on the Viaplay coverage. He was I think it's time for James Forrest to come on, Neil. Oh yes. It's like, no.
Well, Phil, I watched the Celtic TV coverage. I'll no lie, I used a link. I was going to get Viaplay the last time I bought it. They told me it wouldn't be on for 48 hours. That was 1 hour before the match started. I don't know if you remember that. So I'm not giving them my money. So fuck them. But we need, and I mean, the commentator says, I mean, I listened to Simon Donnelly and Jeremy Culloch. I'd rather listen to Neil's getting drawn up against a blackboard, to be honest with you. They two are just 2 pair of tits. Anyway, and they mentioned, Celtic have got Turnbull and Forrest warming up. I went, no. We're lacking pace, we're lacking zip, and Turnbull and Forrest are warming up. I went, I'm just going to run a hot bath and drink a bottle of gin and take a razor blade in with me. That's what's going through my mind, mate, at that point. Striker, I think it's obvious, Danny, lead a striker, mate. I mean, every time Kyogo walks on the park, my heart's in my mouth, mate. I mean, I love the guy so much. His talent is just too good to be wasted in a team that's not using him correctly. And the thought of him falling down and getting a sore one just gives me the utter fear, almost like Larson-esque fear. Yeah. And every time I look at him, even if he's just getting back up on his feet after like falling down, I'm just fearing that it could be an injury, because if he falls out of that team, you can forget it, mate. That's a struggle to even win matches. In my opinion, I don't care how dramatic it sounds. We even last season when we were playing good suffered without Kyogo, and we were getting through games, and I don't exactly think that this Celtic team is even 10% as strong as the Celtic team that was playing last season, that were pushing teams aside and winning 8-9-0 and all the rest of it. This team looks like they couldn't get 8-9 corners, and I'm entirely sure what happened last week, but I don't think the Ross County and Aberdeen match, anybody that was at the two matches, or anybody that's seen any of the pre-season will tell you that I've seen folks saying full time that was coming. No, the Commander's goal. Folks saying that result was coming. How can you into the third game of the season say a bad result was coming, but in the same breath no accept the fact that things are gone haywire? If you're the third game into a season supporting Celtic with all the resources we've got and all the rest of it, and you're thinking of bad results on the horizon after the second game,
tell you?
It tells you all you need to know. In fact, it tells you all you need to know about everything growing this season, mate, and I despair at it, mate. And I'm trying my best not to come across like I'm not actually echoing what a lot of I've seen a lot of people who are normally quite very unemotional when it comes to football on Twitter. Yeah. That's my only platform is Twitter. I don't really have anything else, and you can't really talk to anybody on Instagram other than tell them that their Wayne's birthday cake is good. You know what I mean?
I tell them how their dinner looks tonight.
Nice dinner cake, right? That's lovely. But so and I'm seeing that like oh wow, what a shift in emotion and opinion I've seen. That almost most people to a man or and a woman 2023 or they or them or lamppost, whatever you want to call yourself, they're these kind of feeling like they're seeing deja vu, Phil. Even this morning when I seen that happy birthday to Leo, I mean the guy who nobody's ever even seen before. I don't think he's even trained yet, and they're bringing out birthday messages. And the first thing I thought, I went COVID. The first thing I think of it, I thought COVID season, and that's what I've been seeing all season. Posting deja vu gifs and memes and all the rest of it. And know that I'm trying to draw comparisons, but I'm drawing a big comparison.
Am I right in saying that was the first tweet from the Celtic Twitter since the weekend? Am I right in saying that they've no tweeted anything in the last like? Well,
Phil, you're right, and this is what I don't get the Celtic Twitter page and media outlets, media channels, because it's like they only want to engage with the fan base, even though they don't reply when it's positive. They don't want to come out and they don't want to come out and post any. I mean, the post-match interviews are the last minute and a half when we get beat, in the last 6 minutes when we win. Where's the hard-hitting questions? I mean, I must admit, I love Callum McGregor, but there was only a written kind of interview I seen of Callum McGregor chatting after the players. Listen, can I just tell you, this is word for word about 10 times during the COVID season when Callum McGregor was the captain and Scott Brown was not getting a game. This is the stuff he was hitting it with. It's up to the players on the park to change it, lift it up, draw in, take in the information, this, that, and the other. And it was the same piss you heard with all day there. And the first thing I thought it was, he's probably been the worst performer this season, other than Greg Taylor. I thought, what a cheek you've got, mate. I've already spelt out all the stuff that's going against him. He's in the wrong position. He's been nullified by the manager. He can't help that himself. He's been told to do a job and he's doing it. He's just not doing it very good because of multiple reasons. But don't start like passing on like messages that we should be looking in the mirror first. Callum, he's the only man that I know that's had absolutely nothing but praise, even when you've played bad, mate. So just keep your wee words of encouragement for yourself and the dressing room. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear our captains coming out and hitting it with birthday card pish. We're not interested. We just need you to get the players together, because I tell you something right now, even with the fan base, and you see the wee bit of disconnect looking already. I don't think the players are bought into the system. I think this team has been a very attacking team who enjoy playing football. These guys didn't become professionals just because they're good at football. It's because of they love the sport and they play it day in, day out. So they love nothing more than they play an attacking style. I don't think they're bought into this style at all. I think they feel a bit dejected by it, and they probably feel a bit disillusioned, disenfranchised. Whatever you want to say, I'm not trying to. This is only my opinion. I just looking at the players the other day. There was like 5 minutes to half time. They hadn't made a forward pass the full first half, and barely, and there wasn't even a notion of them trying to get a goal before half time. I thought to myself, this could go into Pancake Tuesday and we wouldn't make a difference, Phil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll move on to the next question, Phil.
So the next one that was grouped in amongst that was obviously talking mostly about the board and this disgrace for a transfer window. So obviously it's from Glasgow CSC. In fact, I've seen you having a good powwow back and forth with him on Twitter about said subject. So yeah, he's asking about what's your opinion on why this utter disgrace of a summer had went over the head of 90% of our support until we lost to Kelly. As you just mentioned a few minutes ago, you have seen a bit of a sea change in the last few days. But yeah, a lot of people naive, buried their head in the sand, blind faith. I could be accused of that, definitely. I know I've definitely sort of had a bit of blind faith as well. But yeah, that's what he's asking about that one. But yeah, the board, this old merry-go-round again.
Well, thank you, Glasgow CSC, for the question, mate. It's always good to see you and have a wee back and forth on Twitter. It's always happy to do that. Phil, I think the reason behind that is because some folk walk about with their eyes closed and their fingers in their ears, and I don't think there's much wrong with that. You know what I mean? It's a happy place to be in. You know what I mean? Anybody that's constantly positive, there's always you always come off a cliff eventually. And I think even if we won on Saturday, the bad result was always going to be coming soon. And I think that's when reality hits. You know what I mean? There's always so many times somebody can piss down the back of your trousers and tell you it's raining. Even the idiots out there will get the grip what's going on. You know what I mean? And I think the thing that worries me, Phil, is I think the 90% of Celtic fans who thought everything was rosy, I think it's the exact same side in the boardroom. I think they all think everything's rosy. Trust the process. The fans don't know anything. Calm down. We know what's going on. They don't. Well, we don't know what's going on. So don't be alarmed or fucking surprised if it comes Saturday and it's half time and we've load a shot on target and there's banners up before the match starts and there's boos coming towards the director's box or shouting coming towards some select players, or even shudder to think some idiots in the board in the fan base shouting at the manager. I mean, don't be alarmed at that or surprised by that. I mean, criticism will come your way, and this isn't the COVID season. We will, and this is categorical. If any of the clowns that are in that board even come across this page, we will no sit in our horns and let you destroy your season like we did during COVID. It will not happen. It's not illegal for us to stand outside that building or shout and sing against you and hold banners up. Trust me, they'll not be throwing sharks. It'll be folk behaving themselves, because that night was months and months of frustration about the government, about Celtic, about the way we played football, and it just culminated in one just crazy night in pissing rain when they get put out of the cup. I think it was St Johnstone beat us.
Ross County beat us in the cup. That was it. Aye.
And listen, I don't like the fact that folk flung stuff, but God bless every one of them. It's the same people who were standing in the pissing rain when Celtic were trying to get the board out in 1994. And I mean, the guys deserve immortalised, if you ask me. The guys handing out the pamphlets when they were getting them ripped out their horns and flung in the puddles after other Celtic fans. So no, I'm not getting against them for doing that. It is what it is. And next time they're going to need a bigger boat for the sharks that's getting flung at them. But I just think the reason why 90% of the fan base is because the other 90% were telling each other everything was fine. Twitter's a dangerous place, Phil, to have an opinion.
I know that. Aye.
You could quite easily drift through Twitter as a sycophant and an apologist and be universally liked and have 10,000 followers within a couple of years. It's easy to do. It's why people like me spend their time saying the hard facts. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather Jack Butland was a Celtic goalkeeper than Joe Hart. That when they go doing well in any Celtic supporters bus or any supporters club. But the fact of the matter is probably a fact, and you can't say these things without people automatically jump down your throat, and that's fine. That's what football's about. If you didn't have an opinion on Celtic, you don't care. You don't care enough, in my opinion. You know what I mean? You've got to be. We don't mess about with our time doing podcasts and going to every match we can and just sucking up any Celtic information we can get if we want to so passionate about the club. So that brings opinions, and very strong opinions. And I think if the other 90% on that's new looking at the club more closely. I mean, Russell took a lot of stick for telling fans to stay focused on the board last season. The guy was absolutely spot on. It's an opinion I've had since my very early days watching Celtic. Never take your eyes off of this board, or the same ones when Ange got us to the first cup final after COVID, who spent months letting the Celtic fans protest about a guy who made Celtic fans' lives a misery, and their plan was to make him the head of security, and they only announced in the morning of the cup final that wasn't going to happen. And then it later on denied it was going to happen in the first place. Well, why not just say that rather than 3 months of protests, boycotts, and tennis balls that flung on the pitch? This is the same board that did that. It's the same board that let the Celtic fans be vilified in the press, let our players get bottles flung in the Ibrox, and let and let our team be denied stonewall penalties and red cards while they sit in their hands and don't write to the SFA or write to the FA or seek clarification publicly like Rangers would. Rangers would do that instantly. When they change the result, but it puts a doubt in their heads. And Rangers, one thing about that mob is that they're vile in almost every line, but they certainly don't take things lying down. If they feel like they've got injustice, they go for it. It's hysterical for them to feel injustice because they're one of the most corrupt football clubs that's ever existed, and they should be ashamed of themselves. But anyway, next question, Phil.
Aye, so the last two that were in this little group were just basically naming some names. Also, we know about the Podence links. It seems to be that still got a bit of traction anyway. We'll wait to see. But of course, the comment in Craig White CSC's one here about Hatate's news today about the contract negotiations apparently being rejected. But now the story is he wants it put back till September, which, if you read between the lines, says to me he'll be here. And transfer deadline day, he'll still be here. Because all those people saw the headlines first thing this morning and thought, oh no, that'll be Hatate away in the next couple of days. But now the communication coming out seems to be, no, he says he's no rush. So if he's want to put it back in September, I guess that's some good news, maybe, Mark, that Hatate's, wanting to, well, it'll be here to January, at least if that's the case. And we definitely need him right now because midfield has been obviously a big problem. And the other comment as well, again, was naming KT and McTominay. As I say, the last two comments were just mostly naming names. I thought the Hatate bit was particularly interesting with that news.
Well, God bless Craig White. In my opinion, the guy was a patsy with David Murray that sunk Rangers. That guy was just a gift sent from God to close the doors at Ibrox. So thank you, Craig, and God bless all your kin. No, the Hatate one, that tells me that if he's still in here in September, he'll speak about it. But he's probably got an agent working to get him a move at the club, Phil. I think. Yeah. If you're going to discuss it, you discuss it just now, or say, look, I'm not interested in discussing contracts. I'm too busy to make myself fit for Celtic, and there's big games coming up, and I want my full focus on the club. It tells me that if he can't get a move this window, he'll maybe look to either extend it, reject it, or look for it in January. If that's the case, I would say, Hatate, you've offered nothing this season anyway. We'll be without you. We'd rather have you at the door and bring in somebody who wants to be there. Rogers says 2 weeks ago, the players who are here on the 1st of September are the ones who want to be here. Right. I think that was a finely veiled message to a couple of players who's maybe been, I think Abada was one of them too. But if I wouldn't miss Abada, although he's got a couple of big goals under his belt, I think stats sometimes hide the truth of the matter. And if ever a stat had a player's actual contribution to the club, I think Lila Bada, I think if you signed him looking at his stats, you'd be fucking shocked when he showed up. So that's my opinion on that. The Podence one, I quite like look at this guy. Looks like he's a bit of a player, but he's not been in a match day squad since May. So what condition that guy is going to be in, he's probably no had any. In fact, he's in 8 minutes at top pre-season. So I say that this is it. I was trying to put across on Twitter earlier on and to my brothers. We've got a squad or a team now that's, in their own words, struggling to adapt to this new system, Phil, right? And rather than us bringing players into a team that's totally comfortable in the system, and then bringing the new player up to speed, we've got to bring in players who are only fit and try to bring them into a squad who's not up to the new system either. So it doesn't bode well for momentum clicking very quickly, mate. It sounds to me like it's going to be a very slow start for Celtic in that sense, you know what I mean? And you don't get, when you go to Tynecastle, Ibrox, Easter Road, and Fir Park, within 3-4 weeks, there's not a lot of wiggle room there, mate, for you to get yourself together again. I'm sorry to paint it out as if the Champions League might be a most important thing, but I can assure you, if you lose a few of the matches, focus will turn back to what really matters. I can assure you, what really matters is the league, and that's tempting, you know what I mean? But anyway, that Podence, I'm not entirely sure if any player we bring in now that's supposed to be better is going to be coming in match fit, Phil. Not at all.
That's it. KT, the first game is Ibrox, so it's like, oh no.
First game Ibrox, and I think maybe at the latest last week, 2 weeks ago probably.
Yeah.
Was any chance that we had to bring in a player in who was going to improve the starting 11 that was going to feature at Ibrox? And we're going to have probably, if we're lucky, Arthur Johnson and maybe Scales or Cal McGregor at left back. Again, that's where it's quite like for Celtic, you know what I mean? In fact, I wouldn't even be against Cal McGregor at left back because he can't play Taylor just now or Bernabei. And if Cal McGregor's going to be useless, put him somewhere that can do something and put a midfield together that's capable of doing something, because Cal McGregor's not doing anything in that midfield at all. He's a jersey, and it's a shame for the guy because he's so talented. KT's a pipe dream, mate, and if it does happen, the 40 us, your fan base, see the 40 him coming in on the 30th and photographs of Michael Nicholson get back up on Twitter and saying what a good job he's doing. That's coming, mate. See if we're pinning our full hope. If we're pinning our full hope this season on getting a guy on loan who's struggling to get into an Arsenal squad for pre-season matches, then I'm sorry. I love Kieran Tierney. I think he's world class. I still think he's world class. I think he's just maybe behind players because of the manager's system rather than the boy's ability. McTominay, I think people who think McTominay is going to come after Man U knock back 30 million. I think
30 million.
I think you should take a packet of gabapentin and just go for a real early night, mate. To be quite honest with you, I think that's one of the most ridiculous transfer links. And I don't mean that coming from Martin. I mean, far from it, Martin. Thanks for your question, but I've seen it on Twitter too, Martin. And I've actually seen folk putting together wee collages of all these moments for Man U, and I'm saying to myself, the guy who spent his time making that up to put on a Twitter page for Celtic fans is having a laugh. The guy's £30 million. Celtic when they paid like 40 years, you know what I mean? That's when they do it. And I think if it came for nothing, with 100% wages paid, Celtic was still wait for the kick the tires, you know what I mean? He was still finding a way to get back. The two of them would come in and probably do a good job. McTominay, I don't think if he was sitting next to me in the bus, I'd probably when he spot him, mate, to be quite honest with you. I don't really know much about Man U.
He's playing well for Scotland at the moment. Steve Clark's getting something out of him.
You know what I mean? I think to be quite honest with you, when I see Scotland play, the first thing I look out for is Celtic players not playing, because I don't want to see him get injured, Phil, you know what I mean? That could be down to me just seeing guys like Kennedy getting fucked, Scott Brown getting injured before and all the rest of it, and I just think Tom Rodgers getting injured for year. I don't like international football. I think it's a waste of time. I think anybody that watches it, fair dues to them, they should enjoy themselves. But for me, I think they should ban it or turn it into an amateur sport or something. I don't think it should be for professionals who are getting paid $100,000 a week for their team and get injured. I think it's a lot of shite, to be honest with you. And that goes for the Women's World Cup and all. I don't know who put that together, but fuck me, man.
FIFA put it together.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they come up with that stuff. It's bad enough as it is, man. If it's goalkeepers that are 3'1" trying to save 40-yard free kicks, give me strength.
So I've got a section
question, Martin. I appreciate that, buddy.
So the next section of question I've got a wee group together is mostly concerning just the manager in general, because I thought the first part about transfers and the board group them together. So this one's all about Brendan Rodgers essentially. So we've got Pam, regular viewers, who says, do you think the lack of good form from Celtic lately is from a change in the manager's type of football? If so, how long do you think the transition from Ange Ball to Brendan Ball will take? In a similar vein, David Kelly says, my question for the judge is, do you have faith that things will turn around and that Rodgers' second spell will be a success? Daryl says, is it not the manager's job, after being paid handsomely by the club, to find a system and tactics set up to match the players at the club? Daryl's question actually went a bit longer, but I couldn't fit it all in. But it was basically find a setup to match the players at the club, or rather than force his will on the players that are already there. But I say I couldn't fit it all in there. And the final question, this might give you a few nightmares. This one comes from Joseph Murphy. We should have given the job to John Kennedy as he learnt the Ange Ball way, but no, back to the usual Rodgers piss. I'm scunnered with this crap. Knew that when Ange left. So there's a bit of a mixed bag for you there, Judge. But yeah, it's all about Brendan Rodgers and the transition, how long it will take and so on. And is it going to turn around and be a success overall? With when the dust settles in May, will it be a success?
I'll bring back Pam's comment just to get a refresher. But she's always good to see Pam in the chat. She's always a big fan of the show, and glad to see you, pal. I think, of course, you're going to see a transition period when you're. I think it's been claimed that the style of play is not too different. I don't think it's black and white. The difference is totally different. You've went for 100 mile an hour, taking throw-ins in an instant, corner kicks in a fraction of a second, to spending 25 seconds just picking the ball up to take a throw-in, just passing the ball backwards as much as possible. I mean, that Ange Postecoglou meme's going to be kind of about last week when he's shouting to the players to stop passing the ball back.
Stop passing it back, yep.
If I seen one with a back pass last Sunday, I swear. I think if we get a penalty kick on Sunday, they would have passed it back. I think they would have passed it back, Phil. I think they'll get the ball to Joe Hart. Honestly, I think so. No point is getting that penalty anyway. Put done as a favour, he'll probably have passed it back, as I say. I think, Pam, this all depends on, for me, how long it takes the players to buy into it. I don't think the players are bought into it yet. I think if you ask the players in the quiet, I think they're not happy with the system. When Andrew's at Celtic, I said this before last season when we were talking about him maybe going to Bournemouth or whatever it was, or Brighton, sorry. I says, my worry is when this guy leaves here, Celtic have got a bunch of players that are identical to one man's vision and attacking, 100 mile an hour type of football, and it doesn't work with every manager's style. And I hate to say it, I think I've been proven right with that, man. I mean, you put some players suit certain styles. That's how I thought David Turnbull might get game time. Thank God it took Rodgers 1.5 games to notice that the guy was like the Tasmanian devil without the pace. You know what I mean? He just spins around in circles and hopeless player. Should never be near a Celtic first 11. But anyway, we fixed that. It only took him a game and a half before finding that he wasn't good enough. But that's the thing, Pam. I think we have to get the players to buy into it, and that might take a while. But I think when more games at home and the Celtic fans are turning on the players and they're shouting and balling at them, and that forces a change in attitude. You know what I mean? They'll soon find out this what it's all about to play for Celtic when times are hard. This team's only seen Celtic fans' reaction to winning displays and winning trophies. When things don't go well at Celtic Park, Phil, you've been there. It's not a very nice place to be. We won the league last season, and there was 3 games to go. We drew against St Mirren, I think.
St Mirren, dreadful performance.
That place was toxic. See the last 20 minutes of that game? That place was toxic. They brought Rocco Vata on, I think it was, and I said post-match to you on the chat anyway, it says, I almost thought it was unfair to bring on a boy at that age in that toxic atmosphere, because then that was a game of the season that didn't even matter. It was.
I would win the league.
You believe me, Phil. If Celtic players have got any doubt that they can pick and choose when to perform, that'll soon come out of their systems when there's 60,000 fans spitting blood when we're passing the ball back against the Mirren at Celtic Park. I can assure you that will not be accepted by this fan base, and that's a good thing about I'd be back in the stadium. The Celtic players won't get away with it. You know what I mean? They only ever saw the Celtic fans once that season. That was when they were flinging stuff at the bus, which shouldn't have happened. But as I said before, these things shouldn't happen. But don't be surprised when a club sells this 24-hour fan base to you as a selling point. Don't be shocked and ashamed and appalled when these 24-hour passionate fans go fucking bananas when they're watching what they're getting served up. You know what I mean? That's what happens. You can't have it both ways. You can't have the adulation and love and not have any of the feedback when it's gone badly, Phil. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Thanks for that, Pam. David Kelly is coming here again. The question is, I've got total faith in Brendan Rodgers, and do you know I've got a caveat to that? As long as it's the same Brendan Rodgers we got back last time. I mean, Russell coined a phrase 3 weeks ago, maybe longer than that. And I've since seen it being used on Twitter and that, so I think we should get Bhoycie the what do you call that again? The trademark on this.
Patent it.
He's the first person I've seen coin it. This Rodgers light, and it's rung in my head ever since he said it. It runs in my head, and all depends what version we get of Rodgers. I love Brendan Rodgers. I'll have swapped Brendan Rodgers at any moment at all in the last 2 years. Any moment. I said that last year in the pod, said that season before last, that I have took Brendan Rodgers over Ange Postecoglou in a heartbeat, and I still stand by that. The type of play might be horrible to watch just now. I don't think it's knitted in yet. I think there's a lot of resistance by the players, which isn't very good. One thing I'll say about Brendan Rodgers, David, is in my opinion, I think he was using the media on Sunday to put pressure on the board. And no matter what way you try and spin that, it just, in my opinion, if that is the case, even if it's only a half-truth, then you go to think to yourself, has some sort of relationship broken already? I've seen Ange Postecoglou use the media in his first couple of weeks when he said after the timecast, where maybe he's been a bit too nice. That's right. If a man's words in the boardroom behind closed doors aren't enough, and he resorts to messages through the media so the fans can hear it, I think that means that the message isn't getting soaked in enough, you know what I mean? And if that's the case, that there's already within a few weeks of the season been a breakdown of communication in terms of what's wanted and what's needed and what's to get done. I think Rodgers might tell the media he's calm and relaxed, but I know for a fact that man would have wanted the players in as early as possible to work with them. I think he even said that's why he went to Leicester in February. He wanted to see the players and work with them and see what he had. There's no way he never knew what players Celtic needed. The same players that we knew Celtic needed improving on is the same ones that we know just now. We knew that we needed a keeper, probably a left back, probably right back cover, a centre back. We knew we needed a right winger. Because we all thought Jota's going to go to the left and Maida's going to be dropped. We all thought Maida was going to be dropped at some point, and a new striker. We all knew that, and we all knew another central defensive midfielder. This isn't anything that Rodgers has spent 2 months looking at, and he's decided this morning, well, I better start phoning guys like Podence. And the minute they were identified as targets, they should have been contacted. Celtic are just opening discussions according to certain media outlets with players. Why are they a week just before the deadline opening discussions? Why was it discussions not opened 5 weeks ago? See the players say 5 weeks ago, do you know what? I'm holding off to the last week. That's fine, but that wouldn't just be the discussions opening up. There's been discussions already, and they took it to the next stage. You know what I mean? It just tells me that, as I suspected, that Celtic weren't having discussions with players all along. I think they've fought as a Celtic board. Always trying to do. They gamble. They gamble with Beaton at the back. They gamble with Chief Chi as your striker, and Lee Griffiths overweight, and they just gamble every season, mate. They don't know, they're in no great hurry to spend money at all, and they're forgetting it's their money. It's the investors reap the rewards, but it's our money we put in. In fact, on that point, I just said to my brother the day, I was sitting in my work and I just on my phone, and I was on the Celtic website. I just on the Celtic store. I just come off the page straight away, and I made a decision. I'm not going to buy any of this stuff this season. I bought the free strips already, Phil, and my season tickets. Other than tickets this season, I'm not going to.
You had that third strip before any of us did. Remember when it leaked by Adidas's website or something?
I have 2 months for them. Well, about 100 days got it, but even the black one, I managed to get that early. That just shows how fucking stupid they are. But anyway, I've decided that I'm not going to spend any more money in merchandise, Phil. No make a difference to Celtic, but it'll make a difference to me. I just felt like a mug was spawning when I was on that website. I went, no, I'll not feel as much as a mug when I kind of sit and moan all week and all month about Celtic not spending money and how much I feel like a dick. Yeah. And go and buy that jumper I wanted to buy all the stuff. I went, nah, no chance. You can forget it. So I'll not be on the website for a long time. I'll tell you that for nothing.
So this was Darryl's question. Is it not the manager's job after being paid handsomely by the club to find a system and tactics to set up to manage the players at the club? Yeah. And as his question went on to say, would it be the opposite of him forcing his tactics upon players that aren't obviously comfortable with it? So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. So how does this get solved? What do we just persevere and eventually it'll click?
Well, I think the manager's the manager, mate. And if you want to be playing for Celtic, you do what you're told. And if you're not in a position to live up to the manager's expectations and do the job you're paid for by the club, then you shouldn't be at the club. And in fact, that's the same if somebody's no buying into the system or maybe no adapting to it for other reasons. Then for me, that's when the player, you know what I mean? I don't think the players who are there just now are suited to a defensive system we're watching just now, Phil, in this quite negative system. So I don't blame the players as such. I think if it's a war of attrition, you know what I mean, you've got to use what you've got, Phil, you know what I mean? And I I can't see Brendan Rodgers after Sunday's game sitting down on Monday morning saying, do you know what, I've got it all wrong. I can't play this system. I'll tear it up. I don't think he spent the first 2 months of his tenure trying to coach into players. And I do believe there's a disconnect there between the players and the system. I don't believe they're bought into it. That's worrying. That only ends one way, Phil. And it's never very often that the players get all kicked out the door at one time, is it?
Nope.
And you find it's normally one man goes. I'm not saying that's going to happen, Phil. So before anybody throws out their chair, I mean, quite honestly, I'd rather a lot of them all went anyway. No, the first 11, but I'd rather be shipped out.
There's a lot that can go, definitely.
I think there's probably, we'll get 3 goalkeepers. I think the 3 of them should go. Maybe Hart kept his. I think Bernabé should go. I think Welsh should have went. I think Kobayashi should go. Awata should go. Kobayashi should go. I think Abada should go. I think Maeda shouldn't have got a 5-year contract. I think he's done his thing for Celtic. I don't think is good enough for Celtic. And that's before I even go into the subs bench and start talking about guys like Haksabanovic and fucking Mickey Johnson and you name it. I'd be thinking all day talk about the riff raffs in that club. And Darryl, but you're right, Darryl. He's getting paid £3 million a year. And I don't see the big deal about this. See Celtic breaking financial barriers. It's 2023. Every couple of years, the price of my season ticket goes up. The price of the merchandise goes up. Tickets go up. Everything goes up. So people get paid more. That's just the way the world works. It's just Celtic just don't live with the times. So we should be breaking the transfer. We should be breaking transfer. To call it again, records every couple of seasons. We should be paying the manager more and more every other season. It should be cut with inflation. I mean, it shouldn't be a case of always getting more money than they got in 2016. So his salary isn't important to me. Although we could afford 5 times it when they bankrupt the club, you know what I mean? But he's paid more than anybody in the league. I'd probably say the rest of the league combined probably doesn't even match up to his salary.
Wouldn't surprise me.
There's no way he's on about £3 million before bonus, mate. So wouldn't be surprised if it goes to maybe 4 or 5 after bonus. So I don't think anybody can match that. So I think it's his job to it's his job. But if the window closes, then it's the players that he's been left with, and it's the players that he's happy to be left with. If he is no standing up for himself, and then he's complicit, which means it's up to him to deal with the consequences. So anybody that's still in the club in September, he has to deal with the players. If that means him shifting his game plan to a more suited system that the players he's got, sometimes it's about taking away your ideal vision of the world, Phil, and just try and blend in and make do what you've got. I don't think for a minute that he'll do that. I think he'll. You remember, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks into his first stint, and there was fans getting really etchy, the passing for the back foul. You remember this? And he said one of the post-match interviews, he said, this is, you need to stay with us. This will click. This will be the norm at Celtic. We'll just play for the back, and there will be scary moments, not at it, but you don't get very far in modern football nowadays if you're not playing this system. And Scotland haven't done well in Europe for long enough, trying it different ways. So just stick by me. And he was right, but so it just shows you that a bit like Ange, you'll not change it because a couple of guys behind the goalkeeper, behind the goals are moaning about it. He'll stick to that system. But I think sometimes you've got to be the bigger man, and I'm not saying they won't, but I doubt it. And just say, look, I've got players who are just too suited to attacking football. I mean, you mentioned Hatate earlier on. Hatate was told very publicly that he had to do certain things to get into his team. And at any time we saw the guy going on the park, he was dropping into Celtic's half 30-40 yards to go to get the ball. That wasn't his style, and he was hovering about the semicircle, waiting for the ball to be flicked out to defence to midfield very quickly, sharp, counter attack. You know what I mean? That transition, I think they call it. You always hear, just a clever way of saying counter attack. If it sounded
pretty much is, isn't it? Aye, that is it.
That's the thing, Darryl. You know what I mean? He's paid enough money, but I think any manager, is paid enough money to do his job, and that would be bringing the best out of the players, and not always just bring out the style of play that you want. Sometimes you've got to have a wee bit of compromise. If you've got players that are no into your system, then sometimes you've got to sit down and work out a way of winning football matches, and that means swallowing a bit of pride sometimes, and at least wait until the next window to bring in players who suit the system. But anybody who's in the club, Taro, in September the 1st, if they're gone, if they're not into the system the way he wants it to be, I think that's his own fault, because he's had long enough to do it. He'll be complicit, and I think if he's come in as Rodgers light and come in with these conditions that we've seen so far, with the club no spending, then I think he's every bit to blame as any other person in the club is, because he's not only is he encouraged it, but he's actually been complicit in what has looked like a Gordon Strachan-esque downsizing of the club.
Well, he said himself, didn't he, about he'll coach whatever players he's given, was his words. So if September 1st comes, whatever you're left with, Brendan, that's what you've got to coach.
Was that no a wake-up call for you, Phil? See when he said that? Did your eyebrows lift?
Again, this was said at a time where there was still a fair bit to go in the window. So it's like, well, there's going to be players that the club are going to force upon him, and he's got a track record of bringing players to a new level and stuff like that. So again, It was kind of like, there was a wee bit of worry and there wasn't, but now we're getting very close to the end of the window, and it's like, say if it's September 1st and we haven't added any sort of marquee players and laid down a bit of money on them, and that's what we're left with, it's like, oh boy, you're really going to have to find some extra gears in these boys now. But say it was his words about, I'll coach whatever players the club give me. We'll wait and see. And the final question on this part about the manager is, John Kennedy's name comes up here from Joseph Murphy. We should have given the job to John Kennedy, as we learnt the Ange Bold way. But no, back to the usual Rodgers piss. I'm scunnered of this crap. He knew it when Ange left. So John Kennedy is manager this season. Imagine alternative universe, Mark, where it was JK that was in charge this season. How do you think we'd be doing, mate?
I'd rather JK rolling, mate, to be quite honest with you. And I think that's fucking Eddie Murphy. That was like a joke to me, Joseph. And I totally appreciate your opinion, mate. I don't know if you're having a wee laugh. I know there, mate. Sometimes people can have a wee laugh. It sounds like they're being serious, but John Kennedy, no. I think you look at the Celtic B team and the utter fucking state it's with Steve McManus and Dan O'Day's doing that mob. You know what I mean? That B team are playing the civil service strollers in East Kilbride and they're getting beat. So I don't think there's anybody within our coaching system that deserves a crack at the Celtic first team. I don't know what it is about John Kennedy. I think he's like super glue. We'll never shake him off. I thought he would have went to Spurs, but my fear is the fact that he said no is just going to be give him the validation to be given the next Celtic manager job after. I think it could be John Kennedy and Scott Brown's a double act, you know what I mean? And that'll be like Morecambe and Wise if you ask me. Abbott and Costello at the point. That's a fear of mine, Joseph, and I did get a point, mate. There's folk that was telling you that not be surprised by the style of play, but it wasn't like us under Rodgers. I think the last few months, but there's circumstances that people forget to factor in. One, we went 10 games. His last 10 games, we only lost one goal, won 10 games, and the goal we lost was for a throw-in. It was a pass back to it should have been to Celtic. And the Marwell player ran on and scored the most controversial goal we've seen at Celtic Park in a while.
That game had some serious needle after that one. I remember that game.
Yeah, and it was a goal to make it 4-1 or something. And that was the last goal that he witnessed as a Celtic manager, actually. There was that goal. And
Finch Eddie scored the hell of a free kick that day.
It did. God, talk about that guy, man. And the thing is, whatever happened to that world-class superstar, Galactico, him and Christopher Ayer, did they go to AC Milan and Barcelona? I forgot to check. But no, Eddie, I don't think it's April Fool's yet, big man. Just stick with it. Brendan Rodgers is by far the best manager that I've seen in my 40 years nearly in this earth. So just keep watching him, mate, and he will fix things. And I'm basing it on it's the Brendan Rodgers of before. If he's come back Brendan Rodgers, like, I'll be the very first one to call him out on this pod, I can assure you, mate.
Would you like a fun one to end on, Mark? A wee bright note, because we've got a question here from
goalie.
Is it from Artur Boric himself, but it's from the Holy Goalie?
He's a fan of mine, so he's big Artur. He's always sending me DMs.
Yeah, we always get a Holy Goalie message on Judgment Day, but he's asking, what's the best goal you've seen live whilst at Paradise? Not so much importance, but in sheer quality. You can throw in a few honourable mentions too.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, before I answer this one, you tell me your most important, your best goal you've seen.
Oh, God.
Your opinion on this one.
I'm still to this day marvel at Nakamura's volley against Rangers in 2008, and that was his first season. That was the first season I had a season ticket, and that's how long ago it was. I've seen a lot of good goals since then as well, but that one is just ridiculous. The technique, the bend in it, the pace of it, it's unbelievable, man. I love it. But you share the same one as me, so let's talk about it.
Well, I think you've got to put a bit of context on this game. We can do a wee bit of nostalgia on this for a minute. The context was Celtic needed to win this match. This wasn't a fuck about. This wasn't a first game of the season where you have to win, but there's a lot of groundwork. If Celtic lost that match, I think they were going something like 7 behind. Rangers were.
We'd lost to Rangers at Ibrox and beat by Motherwell at Celtic Park a week later, and Rangers were 6 points in front with 2 games in hand. But crucially, the day after we lost to Motherwell, they drew with Dundee United, so it was 7 points with a game in hand, and then there was a bit of back and forth where we closed the gap. And by the time we played them, I think that put us like a point behind them, but they still had games in hand. But we had 7 games to go, and we had to win 7 out of 7 , which we did.
That's right, Phil. But it was
and
very
Rangers
important.
dropped the point, so it was a hugely important game. Huge.
And if you remember right, my overriding memory of that match was the first minute or so when I think it was by Robson clattered Christian Daly. We were sitting in the main stand for that match. I can't remember why, but we were, me and my pal Steg. And straight away I turned to him and said, "That's pivotal, mate." I said, "Mate, that is going to, you know," and I think it did make a difference. And then early in the first half, you know what I mean, the game was kind of, you know, the way these games can get back and forth and not much happening. And Nakamura, I don't think he'd either only scored. No, that was his first goal.
First goal against them.
And the ball just got flung up to midfield for big Dunderhead Colville, you know what I mean? And he just took a touch and he just volleyed it. I'm going to say about 35 yards.
Easily.
And the goalkeeper, I think, was Alan McGregor.
At that point, it wasn't McGregor at the end. It was Alexander at the end. But at the start of the game, it was McGregor.
And do you know something? I don't care if it was Oliver Cannon goals. That ball moved that much that nobody was saving that foul. I don't care. I don't think even the Rangers fan would say, "Look, that was bad positioning the keeper." They would just say, put their hands up and say that was a class goal. It was just, I wish I was sitting in the Jockstein stand where I belong, because that goal must have been some goal for your angle, Phil. You know what I mean? I've seen the camera angle just on there, but it never looks the same on. In fact, I do remember Paddy Roberts scoring a goal against Aberdeen. I was obviously in my seat and the ball just left his. In fact, do you know what? I'll give him a second choice for it, but I'll give you that after this discussion, right? Remind me to go back to my second favourite goal, right? And that ball just curved like nobody, almost Roberto Carlos-esque, and right in the top bag, and it just blew up. The place just blew up, and I just thought, and although the game took a twist, I just thought we've got a right chance here. We've got a right chance to get right back in this league, and I just felt that if there was a turning point in the season, it just felt like it. You know, sometimes you go to a match and something happens, it just feels like something's turning.
It was Gordon Strachan's first win over Walter Smith since Walter Smith had came back to Rangers the year before. We beat him. And that first half, I remember at half time, we were 1-0 up. It was 1-0 going on 4 or 5. It's like, oh, we should be out of sight here. And of course, typical, we've not taken our chances. They equalised a few minutes into the second half. And then it looks like they're going to cause the crime of the century and get away with a point. And then Very Good Hesselink scored right at the death. But what a night it was, under the floodlights and all. You can't beat it.
You remember that? You remember half time, Phil, when one-on-one with Samaras, the keeper, and the referee played the half-time whistle. Remember the bloke played the tap? He's running through one-on-one with the keeper, and the referee went like half-time.
Wow, was that in that game? Or was that a different game?
Well, I'm sure it was that game, Phil. I'm sure it was. And also the same match, when Novo scored that goal you mentioned, 6 of their players ran on the park, including all their backroom staff. As I say, I was in the main stand, so you could see it. And the referee walked there and booked the only player that wasn't going to get a match, and that was Stephen Naismith. He let the full lot of them go, and but so that was a great memory, a great goal. But I think they'd probably say that, and there's been lots of good. I've seen a lot of good goals, right? I mean, of course we have, but I think the one that sticks in my memory, I'll never forget Tom Lodge's goal, Ibrox, the one he managed to break one of the Rangers players' ankles or something at the same time. That's double whammy.
David Bates, I think it was.
David Bates, the boys still try to get up, and it just they'd actually went in front, and in fact it was. I think that was like the 13th or 14th derby match that I took my wee brother to, and I think that was the first time. It was something like that, the first time he'd seen Celtic go behind against them. And I remember sitting in Ibrox, and I remember saying to myself, I actually wanted to see us score to cheer him up more than anything else, because his face was tripping him, man. Honestly, nothing could. And then that ball came to him, and it just kind of just floats inside the middle of the pitch and just curls out in the top bag. And see, because I was sitting, I think I was at the second row behind the goals at Ibrox, you could just see the ball just going up and just cracking in the back of that net, you know what I mean? And at the same time, I can still know sometimes you can remember things in your mind's eye. I think it was the same match. At least I think it was. I can still hear the ball hitting the back of the net. See Fresh Eddie's goal. So you can still hear the ball just making that wee crunching noise.
Aye, yeah, I know the noise you're talking about. So satisfying.
Aye, and because you take a breath of air before you go absolute bananas. You know what I mean? And it was like the stadium just held for that ball at the back of the net, and I can still see it. I can still close my eyes and see it now. I can still hear the ball. But I'd probably say there's been many, but you stole my goal. But I think the Tom Logic goal at Ibrox was one that I'll never forget. I'll never forget that goal. I think it was just a thing of beauty. I've probably seen better goals, you know what I mean? I've seen Alan Thompson score some absolute fucking free kicks that you couldn't even place in the net against Rangers, you know what I mean? And that one he scored in the 3-0 game, he put it in the very top corner. I mean, it was like an Nakamura free kick. It was, I think it was 3-0, grown 5 or 6, and he just, so many goals that man scored against Rangers. Remember that one he scored in the last minute? He just kind of kicked the ball, and he managed to lob the goalkeeper was standing on the line, and he lobbed him. How can you lob a goalkeeper when he's still on the line? You know what I mean? That's how good the shot was. And
he's just something else, man.
But it's good. It's good. It's a good question there. Holy goal. I'd probably say if me and you had to get pinned to a wall and asked, I think the two would say the same question. And I don't think I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of good goals at Celtic, but I don't think I've ever seen like the actual ability and technique in one strike of ball like that before. That was just. I don't think it was a mistake. I think the action he put in that ball was totally the way he wanted it to go, Phil. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Level of ability that maybe only guys like Larson and Marc ever had at Celtic. You know what I mean? No place for many world class players, but I think Nakamura, if he wanted to, could have went to the EPL and played in the top 6 teams for Celtic. And that was probably his best goal for Celtic. Even better than his.
It's that of the Man United free kick. It's that of the Rangers goal.
I would put that above that, Phil. I would, because that ball was moving. You know what I mean? He had 4 or 5 running in front of him. There was all sorts of things going on. There's so much to unpack, and he just smacked the ball. It was no mistake. It wasn't as if it was a windy, rainy night at that point, and the ball just got took away with the wind. He went, "I'm taking this ball," and he just put it back. And I'd probably say that was. But thanks for all the questions coming in tonight, guys. So we'll be back in 2 weeks for next edition of Judgment Day. Phil's got Bustalgia next Wednesday, which I'm looking forward to. It's always good to mix it up. I think that's why Phil decided that it'd probably be better if we do 1 week doing this and 1 week doing that, Phil, wasn't it? Which is to try and
pretty much. Plus, I just kind of decided I was doing Wednesday, and this is the night that you do Judgment Day, so I felt like I kind of just took your spot. But at the end of the day, I don't have enough topics to do 52 weeks of Bustalgia, so it's like, well, we'll rotate it. So yeah, next week we'll try and get that sorted. And so it's been a nice action-packed night tonight on Judgment Day. So I thought I would group a whole bunch of questions together rather than just picking out 3, because there was so many that were of a similar ilk, put them all together. But yeah, hopefully we've covered a lot of topics there. And yeah, tomorrow night TNF will be on as usual. Thursday Night Forum, it will be here. The judge will be back on that. The live comments will be available then. Because if you haven't cordoned on by now, you've been watching this the entire time. Yes, this wasn't a live episode. This was recorded. So in case you've been typing away, go, why are they not bringing up my comments? we've recorded. This is a pre-recorded one, but anyway, we are heading off now, and yeah, so we'll see you tomorrow night for TNF. Catch you then, guys. Cheers.
Hey guys, take care. Bye.